So I decided to run because, well, first of all, I applied to be a Latino peer leader, which I will be next year, and that really got me thinking about the Latino community as a whole, and kind of thinking about how we can definitely increase our presence on campus. And that's a very vague term to say, but I also have ideas that I feel we could implement to reach that goal. First off, increasing the alumni network that we have, broadening the resources that we have accessible to us. Just providing more opportunities for internships, scholarships, jobs, and I feel I'd be a good liaison for that because I work closely currently with Nayara Soto, who graduated in 2010. It's a Latina student, so I would have a direct contact to an alumni besides the ones who all graduated last year who would be able to give me input on what they think would be an effective way of reaching out to other alumni. And if they know other alumni who left or lost touch with Tufts, kind of get into their minds like why did they break the connection with Tufts? Like, did they not like their experience? Did they did they just not feel like Tufts was worth keeping track of? So that's a little bit about that. Also, the curriculum at Tufts, while it's really hard to change the curriculum, but one thing that I feel it doesn't reflect appropriately is the quantitative aspect of Latin America. Like, there's all these culture courses. I've taken 3 of them. I've taken the Latino culture, music, and right now I'm taking the art class. So there's all these great classes that they teach you about the general history and but they don't really get into the nitty gritty of why does that economy why are there more struggling economies coming up, or why do the political systems work differently? So making a push to get into how much? 30 seconds. Gotcha. Yes, I can talk about that more later. Also, so there's for historically underrepresented minorities, the transition into college could be a little tough. And sorry about that. And there's a program getting started that I kind of, I think I kind of helped influence with it. It's called BLAST, Bridge into Liberal Arts Science Success.
Awesome, thank you.
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, sorry, so we'll give you, should have explained this, I guess. We'll give you a 30 seconds, 10, and
Would you guys just prefer if I did it silently?
probably.
I'll do that.
Alright,
Can you for
thank you. Marcy?
Okay.
Get our attention.
Let's your fingers. Alright, so all of you know me as, the bubbly, sassy, talkative, weekend-loving Marcy. But all of you have also seen me in, a professional business setting as well. And the same goes for the Latino culture. It's all about music, it's all about food, the language. But we as the Latino community, we're creative, we build, we delegate, we participate, and we think scholarly. And I honestly don't believe that Tufts gets enough of that. And I want that exposure of the other part of our Latino identity, because Tufts really doesn't have an idea of what a real Latino is. I feel like when you say, oh, what's a Latino at Tufts, they're like, J-Lo, you know what I mean? And and let's be honest, both, I feel honestly both are a little at fault. Our community has, we use food, and let's face it, no one would come to the culture shows if we didn't use food, we didn't drive them with our music. But I think it's extremely important for us to definitely hone that the professional aspect of us, the academic aspect of us. And we're on a college campus, so why aren't we doing that? So, in order to achieve this, I definitely want advertising with a purpose. So, informing the TCU Senate and the other community reps in advance on, what we're doing, our events that are happening, connecting with the other groups of 6, Hillel, other minority groups, and getting school-wide blasted emails for, huge events, aka the culture show, Wouldn't you have gone if you got an email from Tony Monaco saying go support Alas? I know I definitely would have, but I was there. I definitely want to see more Latino studies up, and like C2Do is a great start to do that. Definitely going overseas. I remember hearing Andrew Nunez talking about this yesterday in his statement. Going out there and really finding the faculty that goes after and really knows the Latino culture, not just like an Americanized image of it, but a real academic, a real political, economic kind of backup to it. And I definitely want the administration. So like, I know a lot of the time Spanish professors, I unfortunately haven't had the pleasure of taking a Spanish here, but I will. But a lot of times professors, advocate for like the French-speaking houses, the Spanish houses, the Russian houses. And so I think it would be really cool, if the professors talk about, let's go to a Latino Center event, go to the Alice Culture Show. Why aren't they pubbing it up for us too? Because Spanish is not just spoken in Spain. We got all of North and South America to deal with too. So getting the administration behind that is extremely important. And Latinos are everything on this campus. So let's go big or go home, right?
Thank you. So like we said, if you have questions, feel free to just kind of quietly pass those up. So our next question, so we're going to start the question portion. Since Alex started, Marcy, you'll get to answer the question first. You guys are going to have 90 seconds to answer said question. So the first question is, what is the biggest issue that faces the Latino community at Tufts today, and how will you address this as a senator/community rep?
So I kind of touched this upon a little bit in my opening statement. I feel that Tufts isn't exposed to a lot of the happenings that Latinos do on campus. I feel like our culture is almost a little separated from like what we are academically, and I really believe we should really infuse that together. And so an idea that I had that I think would be really cool, as a senator, through TCU Senate, presenting is having a diversity column in the Daily, and it could be a weekly thing, whereas an e-board member of ALAS or MIAS, could write up a little spiel about, I saw this Latino in this sports event, or, and I really like that positive image of Latinos, or like, this discussion came up in ALAS, what does the rest of the community have to say about this, and your own personal experiences with that. A community member could do it too, and like present it to the e-board, because I know ALAS is kind of like the main group through the Latino Center, but I think it'd be really cool if the Tufts community got some exposure, because the Daily would be a big push towards that, I feel like, to start off with.
Thank you. Alex, sympathy?
Yeah, just kind of playing off of that. Definitely the just kind of integration of the Latino community from the greater Tufts community. Like you actually touched upon earlier, getting people to come to the culture shows, and, like besides the food, sparking that like general or the genuine like interest in exposing yourself to the Tufts community. And one way you definitely go about that is to again like promote it heavy, but also kind of better the methods of outreach through, as she said, like, I think that was a great idea, by the way, you said promoting through like the Spanish department, so that would be an excellent way to do it, but sorry, kind of like
That's it?
yeah.
That's fine. Okay, so I'm going to read, I think we like this question, I'm going to read it out loud. This was submitted from the audience, and then we'll go Alex, then Marcy. So I'll read it. Many students at Tufts from Spain, Central America, and South America identify as Latinos. Still, they often fall by the wayside when it comes to discussions of the Latino community at Tufts. If elected, how would you work to bring together and or shape one common Latino identity on campus? Give you a couple seconds to think. Do you want me to read that again, or are you?
Not feeling good.
Good.
One of the key distinctions is that upon entering Tufts, a lot of the, said Spain, South America, Central America, they come into Tufts through like the international department. So that's like, I think right off the bat, like that's a key that's a key separation. Like that establishes like a key to find like the Latinos coming from abroad are international students, whereas Latinos from the United States are, they're the Latino students, and that, them having that program, IO, which I think they have to attend if you're an international student, like that right off the bat allows them to form like a little bubble, and that creates the separation. So I guess maybe blurring that line between, you are an international, Latino student, and you are a domestic. Just kind of blurring, I guess, integrating those further through different orientation programs where I guess you do some sort of like umbrella type thing.
Right. Thank you. Marcy.
So going off of what Alex said, I don't want to repeat, but I think a way we could definitely add that, like, to fix that a little, is add on the international application, would you like a Latino peer leader? Because a lot of the times, they are Latinos, and so they do get international peer leaders, I believe, I'm aware of, but like it's an international peer leader, and like they probably won't understand that culture as much as they're supposed to. So I think that's a good segue to get them in through the Latino Center. A good way to not only for them to go through the IO program at pre-orientation, but also to have a mentor on campus that also identifies as Latino, regardless if it's domestic or international. And I think it'd be great if an international student also was a LPL, like would go for that. I think it'd be great if the Latino Center actually pubbed that up and opened it up to the Tufts community, the international community, getting it through the IO department and saying like, here, listen, we're looking for Latino peer leaders. You identify as Latino, you want to mentor another international student, let's go. So, let's help each other out.
Excellent. So this question was also submitted by the audience, and we think it's kind of the opposite of the question you just answered. But the word Latino covers a wide range of cultural groups that are often clumped together without regard for the uniqueness of each group. How do you plan working with and within these different cultural niches?
So Latino is an umbrella term, and I think it's an appropriate umbrella term, but I think sometimes the way people use it, they kind of forget that there are differences within each culture, and a big distinction of that a lot of people don't realize is like, yes, we all speak Spanish, but we all have our slang, we all have special words that we use. I could say ahorita, and to a Mexican that means I'm seeing you in a second. To me that means I'm seeing you later. So there's a language barrier right there. And so I think, getting to the people, talking to them, what is it like to be at home? What's your life like? And, just like really understanding that kind of culture. Because a Mexican American can have a different experience than a Mexican international student. And, getting them into the center and talking to them, hearing their experiences, especially through the GIMs, the general interest meetings, would be phenomenal. I think it'd really bring up the center as a whole, in really utilizing the goal of that term Latino, that umbrella term, but also respecting those different Latinos within the culture.
Yeah, I would say starting as early as you possibly can, like first 2 weeks on campus, getting everyone together and really like sharing your experiences with each other, like whether it be some organized forum or not forum, but just organized like conversation or some sort of food brings people in, so some kind of thing revolving around like a table, just having like a discussion to really understand the wide range that of like where students come from. And that would, I feel like that would be an effective way of, distinguishing between the different groups while still incorporating, like the international international students. Like everyone has a different experience. You know, the kid from the Puerto Rican kid from New York is gonna have a different experience than the Cuban kid from Miami. Like those are very that's kind of like the stereotypical geographical place where they come from. But I think that's even one thing you could even emphasize or push that the geography of where people come from, and it really impacts their experiences and what they can offer, and bringing them as early into the into the Latino Center, into ALAS as soon as you can would help speed that process up.
Thank you. All right. So the next question is also from the audience. How would you address the cultural incompetence of many Tufts professors? Someone who's not satisfied with their professors, I guess. So, Alex, you can start whenever you're ready.
All right.
I think that is rooted in the fact that there aren't other professors to put them in check. Like there are not enough professors of color, that if they heard that some other professor is using derogatory terms or just making horrible generalizations, there's no worry for repercussions. There's oh, no one's gonna call me out on it. If the student says anything, I'll just fail them. A student, I don't feel like a student is comfortable enough, reacting to that. Whereas if there were an increase in, the percentage of, whether it be Latino, African American, Asian professors who, really were vocal about these things, that would go a long way in dealing with the incompetency of these professors.
Thank you.
So definitely starting with the faculty is extremely important. I think a faculty is going to listen to an equal peer, sadly enough, but versus a student first of all, with regards to that sensitive topic. But then also I think it's our responsibility as a community though to outreach to the faculty as well and invite them to our events, invite them to our forums, and be like, listen, educate yourself essentially. Get to know the student body, get to know the students that you're teaching. That way when you're in the classroom, preaching to these children, or adults, excuse me, you have a better understanding of your students and a better awareness of how a student can react, whether you say something a certain way or how you say something to them. Because the faculty is here for us, and we need to, in turn, educate them as well and outreach to them too.
Excellent. All right, so the next question is, what experiences as a Latino on this campus have influenced your decision to represent the Latino community?
Okay.
Look good on the question? Yeah, starting right.
All right, so my experience as a campus. So I'm involved in actually a lot of activist groups. I'm a part of ALAS, part of Pan-African Alliance. I'm working on the working group, working with C2D, and just seeing kind of the gaps where, students and the issues are trying to come in is not there right now. And a lot of the time, race is an important topic. It's been talked about a lot recently too. There's been op-eds that have put people into flames practically. And I think it's extremely important that, people come together and kind of get a sense of what's going on campus. With the working group, yes, academically we're trying to take care of that and, try to fill in the gap academically, that flaw between, understanding that race component and the climate of the student body. And then you have ISIP working on the climate and seeing where that flaw is. And I think it needs to come together, it needs to come together to better represent the communities. Because you need someone that understands the ins and outs, the backbones of how the university runs, but you also need someone that can actually represent the body, the people themselves. And so having those two groups coming together in a person, that's the best representative you're going to have. And so hopefully I can do that for you.
You good?
Yeah. So I was fairly active in ALICE my first semester, and then second semester it just so happened that I had like rehearsals during that time, so I kind of lessened my attendance. But at the same time, since then I feel like I've really branched out to the rest of the Tufts community, and so I feel like that gives me like the other perspective of like how Tufts views the Latino community, and I guess what made me decide to run was that people generally do express that like I don't really see like a Latino population, so that really got me thinking like why is that? Why do they feel that way? Like why is the presence just like not felt? So what made me decide to run was seeing I have all these opportunities, being a part of all these like different groups on campus where I would be able to really present a positive face, like be a positive face of the Latino community throughout like the greater Tufts community.
Thank you. All right, so the next question is, where and how can the Tufts community improve its relationships with the Latino and immigrant communities in Medford and Somerville? Alex, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so there, like I think you mentioned the question, there's a big immigrant population, and a lot of them are undereducated. A lot of them don't have their GEDs. A lot of them can't get like technical jobs because they just they never really even graduated high school, so they're stuck in all these lower jobs. So one thing the Tufts community can do is as a form of outreach, go tutor at these like GED classes. Go tutor the kids, their children after school, like as they're taking the classes. Really, being there is the most effective way to do it. Like we can do fundraising or whatever, but like if we're not physically there, our influence will be minimal. So that's just one example of something we can do to really show that Medford has this big university, right there, and at the same time, it is trying to reach out to the community to give back.
I know an example that actually I'm a part of now is MIAS, the Society of Latino Engineers and Scientists, actually going into the local Somerville community and getting kids excited about science, getting them excited about engineering, and I think that's really important to start there with the youth, and going into the community, inviting them, getting like kids like the Latino kids like in the schools excited to come. Like, listen, you can come to a place like this too if this is the path you can take. You know what I mean? Showing them that they actually have options, not like saying, listen, this is the high school that you go to, this is where you're stuck at, unfortunately. But actually going there, showing them a positive light, showing them like, you have options, you have science, you have arts, you have engineering, and look, you have an awesome school right here next to you that you can utilize and come visit. And so for us, going into the schools is extremely important. And I think a great point that Alex pointed out is like going into like the high schools as well, and like, again, getting those kids excited, letting them know that high school diploma, GED, get your degrees that you need to get you to a place like this eventually, and like even talk about the local community colleges if they're not at that level yet, to fully prepare them to come to a place, an institution like this that can really benefit their future.
Thank you. All right, so we'll do a few more questions. The next one is, how do you plan to balance the dual roles of a community representative and a senator? In other words, how will you decide whether to support your community or the entire school if the two are ever seemingly at odds?
Ooh, that's a nice question.
You want me to repeat it, or are you good?
I think I got it. Okay. So, obviously you have to take it case by case, but I'm here for the Latino community, and when there's an issue or proposal that comes up that's supposed to affect the entire student body, I'm going to have to put them first. I'm going to have to put the Latinos first. because they're tough students too, so why is not the problem going to affect them either? You know, how could they be an odd, like, for me, understanding the question, how could they be an odd spectrums of something? And I would definitely want to understand if my community is at a spectrum of, like, what the majority is saying, I want to understand why. And I would bring that, you know, question up to them and see what the community has to say. Bring it on Senate and see, oh, well, we didn't think of that as a Senate body. Oh, let's reevaluate ourselves. Let's see how we can really get this to affect the entire student body. Because TCU Senate is there to represent the entire school. That's their job. And as a community rep, I'm there to represent the Latinos. And, like, well, if there to represent the Latinos, like, for their best interests. And, you know, you're there to propose what the Latino community has to say about that issue and give the reasons why. And hopefully, you know, there could be a collaborative understanding as to trying to make ends meet, like find a happy medium, hopefully, that, like, supports the community as a whole, but also supports the Latino community.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah. So I think it says enough that I am running for the Latino Community Representative and not the Senate. You know, both options were there, but I chose to represent the Latino community because, you know, I do have the best interests for the community. So, you know, she covered a big part of it. But, you know, from what I've heard of Senate, you know, there are a lot of heated debates. There's a lot, you know, there's a lot to be said. So. And that's why I'm there. I'm there to give the input, you know, from a side that I guess isn't, you know, accurately represented in the Senate, and that's why the position exists. That's why it's there. So that's the priority. That's why I'm there. I'm there to relay the messages. You know, relay the sentiments on campus from the Latino community. So, as she said, you know, there will have to be a time, you know, to make compromises, but first and foremost is the Latino community.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So, what events?
What actions would you take?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Events snuck its way in there somehow. What actions would you take to keep connections between the group of 6 together? So, Alex, you're gonna start whenever you're ready.
So I guess the biggest thing is having continual interaction. Like, you can host like one thing at the beginning of the year, you know, say, yeah, we're the group of 6, you know, we're a cohesive group. But if you do that the first week and don't do anything till December, like second semester even, like, that's not really a way to, like, build a connection. Like, you build a connection with people through daily interactions, through, you know, keeping up with how they're doing, keeping up with, you know, what's going on with them. So, you know, you don't have to have like huge events between the little ones, you know, just like, you know, you can have like little cookouts or something, like just things that'll get people to come and make them want to keep coming, to build like a more cohesive, like, group of 6. Because it completely stems from being around each other as much as you can. So definitely more frequent interaction as opposed to, like I said before, like a thing at orientation, say, hey, we're the group of 6, and then nothing else for the rest of the semester.
Awesome. Marcy?
So I agree completely. Again, like I said yesterday, group of 6 is kind of an umbrella term for 6 separate silos that do their own cultural thing. And an idea that I had at the middle of last semester was like, why don't we have an ambassador program for the group of 6? Why don't we have a selected group of, I don't know, 2 for each community, and get them to visit each center, you know, in one of their bigger meetings, and then bring it back to their community. Like, why can't we do that? Because group of 6 is there. It's like the Latino term. It's an umbrella, but you need to respect it. And I think group of 6 is being isn't upheld to, like, its respective standard, its respective title that it's supposed to stand for as the group of 6. And so I think it'd be really cool if even if that ambassador program, you know, doesn't go through or doesn't seem to work, you know, having e-board members from separate centers to go visit, because I know personally I cross over a lot of the group of 6 already. Like me personally, and thank God for this house, there's LGBT upstairs and Latino downstairs, and that's me, you know? And so like there are going to be a lot of minorities, a lot of students on campus that cross over already in the centers themselves. So why can't we do that for them and bring those events, those information that we're getting from those meetings, and bring them back to like our respected general interest meetings too.
Thank you. Alex? Did you go already?
We did that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's been a long day probably. We all had long days.
So the next question is going to be, describe your style of leadership.
Okay.
Ladies first. So the type of leader I am, you know, I think the most important trait to a leader is having a good set of ears. Yeah, you can have a big mouth, but what's going to come out of it if you're not listening to what people are saying, or you're not listening to the people around you? You know, you've got to think before you speak, right? And so a set of ears is definitely super important, and I use that a lot. Yes, I have a big mouth, and I'm aware of that. But you know, when someone else is talking, when someone else is giving out their opinion, I definitely take it in, digest it, you know, think about it, and then set my own thoughts on it, you know. I'm a leader that likes to include a lot of people too. I never liked, you know, having someone being exclusive, like on the side by themselves, you know. I like bringing in people. You know, if I feel like in a meeting, you know, I do this at Ala sometimes. If I'm in a meeting and, you know, I see someone that looks like they have something to say, you know, I look, you know, I try to make eye contact and be like, hey, you have something to say? You need to say something? And, you know, hopefully that, you know, they say something. If not, I'm not going to call them on the spot because nobody likes to do that. No one wants to be that guy. But that's the type of leader I am. Definitely I'm a go-getter. I like the people to be heard. I like to lead. And hopefully I'm a good follower to be a good leader at the same time.
Thank you. Alex, whatever.
Yeah, so I'm not the kind of person who likes to hear myself talk. So I like absorbing, you know, seeing what everyone has to say, but when it comes down to, you know, some sort of like argument with, you know, if someone has like an opposing view to mine, you know, I will take the time to understand like where they're coming from, but I won't push my opinion on them. My goal is to make them understand, you know, where I'm coming from, where, you know, why I, you know, feel the way I feel. So, as opposed to just like, you know, shoving it down their throat and be like, you know, this is the way to do it. So definitely getting, you know, as informed like an opinion as you can get, because if you just jump the gun and like jump right in with your emotions, like there's no way of telling where that's gonna go. So definitely my form of leadership, you know, is being there, being very present, but at the same time, you know, allowing people to voice their opinions as I like gather my thoughts to present my case as best as I can to everyone else. And this is like in the context of like group per se type.
Okay. Thank you. All right, 2 more questions, and then we'll have our closing statements.
Oh, Sherry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're good. So the first,
It's okay.
the next question is, how active are you currently in the community, and what are you studying, major-wise?
Tacked on the end there,
Yeah.
so we know.
A little background information. If you guys want to give your class here too, feel free.
Okay.
So Alex, you'll start.
All right. I'm a sophomore, economics major. I'm very active in the community. I'm involved in the Ocampo community. I'm part of S Factor, Theta Delta Chi, more known as 123. I work up in the admissions office, so I'm interning there for diversity recruitment. And one thing I was trying to get at in my opening statement as I was coming to a close was that part of my job there is being the first point of contact to prospective students, and primarily prospective students of color. So they come to me with like various concerns. One thing, their big concern was like how am I gonna adjust? Like I hear all these things about Tufts, like I just feel like I won't succeed. They're like very insecure. And one thing that has come out of that is the BLAST program that I mentioned earlier, Bridge to Liberal Arts Success at Tufts. So just being involved with that and being the first point of contact to these like students of color, I get to see the experience at Tufts from its very beginning. Still applying, not even like haven't even turned your application to like knowing people who are like 2-3 years out.
Thank you. Marcy?
So I'm a freshman, and technically by administration I am undecided. But I'm thinking of doing engineering psychology. That is both offered in the liberal arts and engineering school. So hopefully we'll do that. And I'm actually heavily involved in the community, actually, even as a freshman. I'm a part of ALAS, the freshman rep. I'm a part of Pan-African Alliance. I'm a segue into the working group, working with Dean Berger-Sweeney, Dr. Chu, and Dr. Professor Penal Joseph. Excuse me. I'm a part of Compass, which is a social entrepreneurial group on campus that is a fellowship to create businesses that result in positive social change. I'm a part of Tufts Women's Rugby Football Club, so I got to keep myself active. I meet a lot of people through that. So I'm definitely spread out in the community in that sense. And then, let's face it, we're all academic students too, so we all have our courses we have to attend to. We go and meeting people there. But I work at the X-College as well, and I get a lot of front-end proposals, kind of meeting the missing link points where our faculty can't teach something, or don't know enough to teach something to its extent. So I think that's been an amazing experience there. So definitely exposed on campus a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so this will be the final question, and we'll have closing statements. How can the orientation programming be reformed or altered so that students of color are not funneled into one cultural/racial/ethnic vacuum?
So,
That'll be you.
sorry, I'm losing track.
Yeah.
During orientation, you say?
Yeah, I'll repeat it. How can the orientation programming be reformed or altered so that students of color are not funneled into one cultural, racial, or ethnic vacuum?
Okay, got it. Okay. I'm trying to think back to my experience as most recent. And coming on campus, I remember I was pre-med, and so I was invited to a lot of pre-med stuff, which for me wasn't racial at all. And, cornering me racially. I know I was invited to the Latino community as I was assigned a Latino peer leader, which for me, I honestly gained a lot through that mentorship. Actually, I'm still friends with my mentor, and we have Sunday coffee dates, so that's beautiful. I always look forward to that. But during orientation, I even for me as a student of color, as a minority, I honestly didn't feel like I was segregated or pushed or swayed over, like, oh, she's Latino, so you have a special agenda to cover. I didn't get that sense into that. And I would like to hear other students, like, if they did have that experience, I'd like to hear, what their thoughts on that. I know during orientation, God, it was a blur now. I know during orientation we had a lot of community stuff that we were doing, like, just as a class as a whole, and I really liked that, that there was a talent show. There was the kind of like the concert showing of like all the other groups that freshmen could like go for, or transfer students that could go for, and that was really awesome. So for me personally, I didn't get a sense that I was being herded towards the side because I was Latina. I just got, I guess, a special star because I had a peer leader.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna do closing statements. Alex, since you opened first.
You didn't
Oh,
want
wait,
to
he
hear
didn't
my
answer the
answer.
question.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
We have them labeled on the sheet.
Well, I messed up. Alex, I sincerely apologize. Go ahead.
Not a problem. I completely agree. I don't feel like I was steered like in one direction or the other. I did the FIT pre-orientation program, and that's not like culturally based or anything. That's like people who have an interest in being active, you know, getting the like more athletic side of Tufts, you know, getting that exposure. But one thing you could do during orientation that I feel the international orientation, one thing they do well is their orientation program is not all international students. You know, they do invite domestic students. You know, my buddy's a Jewish kid from Lexington, Mass, and he's done IO the last 2 years. Like, just in you know, if the goal is to still have the focus be on like the Latino experience, you know, inviting people, you know, to come be a part of it, you know, share what they have to say about it. So that would be one thing I'd recommend for the the orientation program.
Thank you. Okay, so now we can do closing statements. All right, so you're gonna have 3 minutes back on the clock, and then Alex, since you opened first, Marcy will close first. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. All right, awesome. So, kind of to wrap this up, you know, I definitely want to work well with the Latino community. You know, bring a positive social atmosphere to like what we are on campus. Bring that forth. You know, bring all our identities of being Latino together. You know, the academic side, the cultural side, the athletic side. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen, you know, the athlete of the week be someone of color yet. And I would love to see that. I know they're out there, but I haven't seen that, and I would love to see that. You know, bringing that collaboration to TCU Senate, you know, bringing all those identities that make us Latino and bringing that forth to the Senate, because the Senate, again, at the end, is the representative body of Tufts community. That's its main job. And making sure that all communities are represented well, bringing that information to there would be extremely important, and it's definitely something that's necessary on that body. I want to bring a spotlight to that. You know, the ideas, the concerns of the Latinos are what's going to be priority. You know, there are a lot of Latinos that, you know, like Andrew Nunez is like one that always pops into mind with, you know, ideas. His brain's always like churning when I see him, and he's, you know, he has like googly eyes and like he's ready to do stuff. And like, that's a Latino that I'm like, yes, I know there's thousands of you out there. Maybe not at Tufts yet, but we can get there. And so, you know, I think that's what needs to be brought forth. That's what needs to be looked on. You know, don't forget that, you know, it's important to look back and recognize that, yes, we are an oppressed group, we are in a minority, but don't hone in on that. Don't stay there. You know, take that to go forward. Take that to move on. You know, we're all tough students at the end of the day, and I think that's super important that people, like, especially Latinos, are reminded of. You're a tough student. You worked hard to get here, and you're working hard to stay here. And that kind of representation is super important. So, so vote Marcy for a brighter, more connected Tufts. # Marcy exclamation point.
Thank you. Alex, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that a majority of Latino students are on financial aid. So one thing that is a little concerning is that they don't, like, the same opportunities aren't really there. Like, there isn't the same I guess motivation to take an unpaid internship, for example. You know, out of fear that, like, you know, you can't just work. You can't do something like work all summer and not get paid and like justify that to your parents. Like, at least with me anyway. Like, if I took an unpaid internship, my dad would just be like, "So you're just like someone's slave, essentially." Like, so like, maybe setting something up that, you know, that Tufts does have grants for unpaid internships, but I feel the way it's structured doesn't really provide the same opportunities that it does for other groups of students on campus. So that'd be one thing I'd really push. Increase the financial aid opportunities. And my high school had a very good financial aid program. Like, if anything I needed at the drop of a hat, like, they would help me out with it. If I needed a new laptop, like, they would be right there. Like, I would pay the same percentage of like my financial aid. So that's how that worked out. So that would be something I would try to push. At the same time though, I feel like huge strides have been made to improve the Latino experience. Ease that transition. I keep bringing this program Blast up, but that's because I feel like it has the potential to be just an enormous help to a lot of students. But the important thing is not to be complacent. Like, its first session is going to be this summer, but we need to stay diligent on keeping up with that. We need to make sure that they're following through with the promises that they are, these kids are being better prepared as a result of being a part of that program. So really following up on the successes we've made, or all the successes we've achieved, and making sure that we're not getting complacent and we're still pushing forward.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen.